Welcome to our second webinar in the Inventor's Patent Academy series. We're so glad you joined us for this discussion about turning dreams into reality and overcoming barriers in innovation with our special guest, Tiffany Norwood. Today's webinar is presented by Invent Together, an alliance focused on expanding participation in inventing and patenting, particularly addressing diversity gaps, especially for women and minorities. Closing these gaps could quadruple inventors, boost GDP, and lead to exciting inventions. Invent Together works through research, public awareness, best practices, policy advocacy, and inventor education, including the Inventors Patent Academy, or TIPA. Launched with Qualcomm in 2022, TIPA offers free, online, patent education specifically designed for underrepresented inventors. It tackles the challenges faced by underrepresented groups and offers tools to overcome them. Over 2,000 students have enrolled in TIPA and is being adopted by colleges and universities, including HBCUs, HSIs, and community colleges. We're delighted to feature Ms. Tiffany Norwood on today's webinar, a serial entrepreneur committed to lifting all potential inventors. Tiffany is one of the innovators featured in the TIPA course. With a global and unique perspective on everything, Tiffany Norwood is considered one of the top innovators and tech entrepreneurs in the world. Seeing patterns of opportunities, Tiffany often creates years into the future and has been a pioneer in multiple industries from digital broadcasting, broadband internet, digital music, ed tech, esports, and more. Her startups have impacted billions of people in more than 150 plus countries. She is known worldwide as a changemaker. Tiffany was recently named the 2022 Entrepreneur of the Year for Cornell University, the first Black woman to receive this Lifetime Achievement Award in its nearly 40-year history. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming Miss Tiffany Norwood. Hi, Tiffany. How are you?
Great. How are you, Stephanie? And thank you so much for having me here today.
We are so excited to have you here, Tiffany. If you could give us a moment, can you briefly tell us about how you got started on a career of innovation and invention?
Yeah, and entrepreneurship for that matter. I would say I first started my journey in innovation, invention, and entrepreneurship when I was a kid. I had a number of different enterprises, and I use the term enterprises loosely. But I like to start with that, including the lemonade stand, including a greeting card company, including a ticket scalping business, etc. Right? Because I loved music. It was legal to sell tickets from your home, but I wanted to start there because all you'll find with my story, everything stacks upon each other. Every little bit of practice or experimentation that you can do can be used for something in the future. And especially now, I have 3 companies. They're very complex. I had to practice my way up to that versus just taking one big leap of faith, right? But specifically with regards to patents, I filed for my first patent when I was 19. I was at that point a junior at Cornell University, and had also started a company with some friends for the first one-strap backpack. And that was what I got my first patent on.
What? The first strap backpack? I haven't heard of that. That sounds
The first one-strap backpack.
one
So you know
strap.
the design where it goes like this and tapers into a triangle, and you can click the strap on either side?
Yeah.
We were the first to create that.
No way.
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember seeing that. That's so exciting. I love this. So, Tiffany, I understand back in grad school, especially at Cornell, congratulations.
Thank you.
How has your passion for innovation been influenced by your passion for learning? Because you're always learning, you're always doing new things. I'm so curious.
Yeah, so like many people, I consider myself a lifelong learner. But unlike many, I'm back at school at the age of 56, getting a master's of engineering degree at Cornell University. So it's a full circle moment because, as I mentioned, I was there as a teenager many, many moons ago, also studying engineering. And I do get that question a lot, like, why are you so bullish on education? Why are you back at school when you don't need any more jobs? You have three companies. And Stephanie, it goes to, I think we can all agree in our country and in the world, there aren't a lot of things right now that we all agree on, but I think we can agree on this, which is that the world is becoming a lot more complex and will continue to become even more complex in the future. And for me, personally, I do not see any way, even though I have, an undergraduate degree from a top tier institution, an MBA from a top tier institution, I do not see any way with the complexity that is present and ever growing in our society that what I learned for the first 18, 21, 26 years of my life can carry me all the way through until death. And it's not just about professional, it's also about personal. A lot of fear around new things and new tech has to do with not understanding it and feeling overwhelmed by it. And so I wanted to go back to school, in some cases, restudy what I studied before, because I was in AI and other disruptive technologies before, but as well see what new is out there. And there is a lot of new out there, Stephanie.
I can only imagine. I feel like every time I'm opening up the news, something else is being developed, something is always on being invented and created. And so I love the fact that you carve out time and space to know this is the time for me to go back to brush up on my skills, see what else is out there, and build upon the knowledge that you've already built earlier in your career and just keep going. It's such an inspiration just to hear that.
Thank you.
So, Tiffany, without giving any legal advice, how can young inventors and entrepreneurs determine whether something that they've created is viable for patenting or even requires IP protection? What are your thoughts?
So I can say from the perspective of the inventor, for me, I'm constantly experimenting and testing and documenting and capturing things. And for people that I trust, talking to them about it and seeing what they think. I'm an observer. I think, to study anthropology would be really great as an innovator and inventor. So, being a observer of the human experience, that also gives me clues and allows me to see trends and patterns around things that I think are going to be really important for either a part of society or the world or something in between in the future. Also, when I'm developing things, I am effectively looking at claims and the patent process while I'm creating, because I always like to say patents are just paragraphs and pictures. So the more you can document and capture, sketch out things, be writing narrative around, what it is and why it's special, you're halfway there with regards to the patent process. And again, that's no legal advice, but when you do retain a lawyer, the first thing you have to do is somehow transfer your imagination to their imagination so that they can protect it.
That's so fascinating. And when you document these processes for these ideas and want to share your imagination with someone else, are you sketching it in a notebook? Are you putting in notes, or are you putting on a website? Like, how do you do your process for your ideas? Because I imagine you're just walking around like, oh, here's an idea. Oh, here's another idea.
Yeah, I am. And it's a beautiful way to live life. But, also I have to get things done because I'm both an innovator and a creator, but also I'm an entrepreneur. So I'm very practical about going to market. So in answer to your question as to what tools and resources do I use to capture my imagination, it would be all of the above. So I meet my imagination where it is, just like I meet my customers where they are, right? So sometimes it's, recording using voice notes. Sometimes it's typing into the notes in my phone or some other device. Sometimes it's, the notebook with pen and etc. I also have tear off whiteboard sheets. Have you ever seen those? I travel with them even.
I
I
have
travel
a
with the
tear
roll.
off whiteboard sheet.
Yeah, hold for 1 second.
Yeah, I've never heard of that before. I've heard of
This,
back of the
for
napkin
inventors
planning.
and innovators, this is the best. So it's you can get them on Amazon. So you see, and it's a whiteboard, and it self clings to a wall.
No
Yeah.
way.
So I create with those.
I could just imagine you, Tiffany, sitting on a plane and you're like, you know what? Here, instead of like taking down your airplane tray, you're like, here's my whiteboard. And then just mapping
Well,
things
not
out.
that bad, but imagine in the hotel rooms. Imagine in my office, which I have off camera,
Yeah.
on the wall. And then when I'm traveling, I take the whole vision with me, roll it on top of the blank roll, and for uh, markers. And this sounds so surprising to you. I'm
No,
surprised you
I'm
haven't heard of.
fascinated because, before you and I had other conversations about like, my daughter has all these ideas and I'm the queen of the post-it notes. But now I feel like, Miss Tiffany, now I get to have this portable whiteboard, which is just
Yeah.
entertainment for hours. And I can literally just write down my ideas. So thank you for that. This is so
Yeah,
much
you're
fun just to see
welcome.
how your brain
No
works.
post-it note is going to capture my, like, I'm always thinking so big.
It's like,
So
boof.
I need, and I'll like paste them together so I can even have a bigger board. And sometimes the, the, the people that, clean my hotel room, I sometimes wish I was there when they came in and saw like this.
It's like a beautiful
Like,
mind. Wow. All of these
yeah,
things
like a
are now
beautiful
appearing.
mind. Like, who is this crazy person staying in this room?
They
But yeah,
probably
so
wait for you.
to your point, I use a variety of mediums. Sometimes I'll put it into a video because there'll be like some aspect of it that I want to see. How would I tell the story of it to someone
Mm.
else? Um, and yeah, so I use every medium that's available to me to capture my imagination that makes sense for whatever it is I'm trying to capture. And Siri. So I'll dictate to myself and put it in to, like, I'll be like, Siri, take this note. Blah, 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 blah.
Oh,
My brain
I could just imagine how it's
fast.
like. Yeah, that's great. I love it. So, Stephanie, what are the most common challenges you see young inventors facing today when protecting their IP?
Yeah, so first off, money. The process still takes time and it still takes money. And you still need, generally speaking, some sort of professional resource, usually an IP or a patent attorney. And most young people, don't know those types of people offhand. They don't have the money to pay for a patent. So that has been a challenge. And then, as well as just the understanding of how the patent process works and what their rights are and how valuable their imagination and their genius is. Because intellectual property, patents, et cetera, is just imagination taken seriously. So I, would even love for us to start using the term imagination more, or innovation, versus intellectual property, because for the desire to have more people participate in the genius economy, I just made that up.
Trademark.
um,
Like you need to go get that right now.
we need to make it more accessible and meet people where they are. With that said, there are a lot of resources that are in place now that weren't there when I was a teenager. One, TIPA, which is why I got involved with it in the very beginning. So to be able to hear other inventor and innovator stories, and what to look out for, what to shoot for, et cetera, how to think about the process is really, really important. Also, the USPTO is a lot more user friendly. I'm involved with them often. Their website is fantastic. They have a pro bono patent program. And there are also local resources now. I don't have all of them in front of me, but I will tell you how you can find them, which is to go and to Google a pro bono patent filing. That can be a great place to start to find some of the resources that might be within your community. And then lastly, I am back at grad school. I'm back at Cornell. And I forgot how many resources are available at universities and institutions of higher education. It doesn't have to be a, a university like Cornell. It can just be whatever university or community college is nearby to where you live. Go and reach out to them.
That's so helpful. Sometimes I feel like when you have this idea and you want to take your imagination seriously, sometimes you just have to wonder, what's the right question that I have to ask? And so, for everyone that's tuning in, like just being here and you saw a whole entire slide that just listed every single thing that you could possibly do. And I would even say, I remember Miss Tiffany, you had told me before that you just went to your library. Like we have this love for public libraries and how much access we can get there. And I just thought that was so helpful.
Yeah, and I still do, but definitely pre-Google. The Library of Congress was my Google because I live in Washington D.C. And also, there's a lot of local libraries nearby. And so, for me, a lot of times I'll start with the library. Yeah, I'll Google, but when I'm serious about something, one of the first things I do is go into the library because the librarian is so much more well versed in finding relevant information than the search engine. The librarian will beat out the search engine every time.
Why is that? Why do you think that is?
Well, you can never fully compete against human intelligence and ingenuity and adaptability. And so you go into the library and we're like creating a mastermind as that librarian then goes off and tries to find what I need. Like we're trading information, we're upskilling. I have my paragraphs, my pictures and paragraphs and stuff, right?
And your whiteboard.
And yeah, and the librarian, as another human being, will be adapting so quickly and asking questions so quickly and being able to sort of co-create in the moment in a way that it can be hard for technology to keep up with. Even I say this even as a techie, even
Yeah.
as a techie with three companies that have elements of AI in all three. If you ask me to bet on human intelligence versus derived human intelligence, which is AI, it's a derivative. I'm always going to go to the original source first if I can.
Yeah. I find that very helpful because oftentimes when I do go to the library, I might have this idea of something that I want to do. And the librarian will always ask these very specific questions. And sometimes she'll come back and it's not just one book. She'll say something along the lines of like, and I thought you might actually be interested in this too. And I was like, oh,
Exactly.
wow, thank you. I didn't think of that. But having that quote unquote mastermind that you just said makes it very helpful to expand on an idea.
Yeah, because the most important information that you probably want is information that you didn't know that you didn't know.
That is true. There are
And
times
so
I,
it's hard to train, or feed it into a search engine if you don't even know. But I like using both. I do find though that most people only use online and they don't, also leverage the free resource of this highly trained person to find information called the librarian.
I love that. I love it. Here's another question for you, Ms. Tiffany. What are some typical systemic barriers inventors of color face when patenting?
Oh gosh, there's so many. First off, it's just hard being an inventor regardless of race, gender, age. It's a synchronous process, as in it takes place over time. It's expensive. If you are the inventor, it's high stakes for you as well. So first off, I want to acknowledge that. But then if you're a diverse inventor, it goes further. And, one, it starts with resources, like finding resources to pay for all these things. Another goes to your imagination or your intellectual property or genius not being as valued as others in a variety of ways. I still go through this now where I'll be in a space or a place and I'll find out everyone around me was getting paid except for me. So and when you don't have those resources, then as an inventor you have to go out, try to find the money as well as deal with the process, whereas other inventors might be able to draw upon resources or reserves that they had in place because they were being treated fairly and paid fairly in other spaces and places. And that matters because as a new inventor you're usually drawing from your savings. But what if you don't have it because you're not paid properly in the primary thing that you do? That all matters. And then probably lack of community around it. So I know for me, the saving grace was that I was at university when I filed my first one. So there was a lot of people, as long as I had the courage to go out and ask for help. There were places to ask for the help, right? But if you're unusual type of inventor or innovator, and there's no inventors or innovators around you, then you could end up making like basic mistakes around it. And I don't know them offhand, and I'm not a patent attorney. But, I always, just like with the librarian, I always know that there is, a great benefit to leveraging other people's, intelligence and genius. That's one of the benefits of going to school. That's one of the benefits of reading, that you can just sort of take the shortcut and have my professor who is a PhD in X, Y, and Z give me the Cliff Notes version of it versus me having to spend the 10,000 hours becoming an expert in every subject I'm studying. So there is a trade-off there because there aren't a lot of inventors or innovators already in the community.
That's such great advice. I find that whatever path or career that you're going to take, there are always resources and relationships, and the better that you go out there and start building them now, the more helpful it's going to be for you. So I love the fact that you said that you were able to call upon your professors and everyone else within your community and kind of build off of that. It's fun.
Yeah, exactly. And yet another benefit to going back to school,
That's the message,
because
friends.
I'm able to leverage that now again. And I'm like, this is even more valuable than I realized when I was a younger entrepreneur, to just have all these, really smart, a lot of experience, expertise at your fingertip to ask a question and them to introduce you to
Oh,
people.
that's
It's
where the
great.
magic happens, of course.
Yeah.
Can you also share with us how you think about your IP strategy fitting into your business strategy as a whole? So, for example, like how have you used IP to raise funding? I mean, that's something that we had just talked about. Sometimes as an innovator, you might not have the reserves to do so. So, how has that worked out for you?
Yeah, when you have limited resources in the beginning, it's always a trade-off. And it really depends. I mean, most tech entrepreneurs at some point are going out for venture funding or institutional money, and they're going to want to see that what they're going to invest in is protected or unusual enough to get a patent. Because to be clear, just having the patent alone isn't protection. There's a lot of bad behavior in the industry, and it's something that I'm trying to work on as far as shoring up the patent laws, because every patent I've had, someone has tried to steal it, and not accidentally, because in one case they wanted to acquire my company, and I was actually up for it because I was a CEO and I was burnt out, right? But my other three co-founders weren't, and in the operating agreement we had unanimous consent. So I was like, sorry, they don't. One of them doesn't want to do it, and we have unanimous consent. But thank you for your offer. And then they were like, okay, and then they just went out and did it anyway. Like that didn't stop them from not doing it, right? And it was around the backpack, actually. So even something as low tech as that. We were just taking off. We were in the New York Times. We were in Spike Lee's joint. How cool is that? In Brooklyn, we were in 50 retail outlets. And like this is back in the late 80s. And so it was just causing a huge splash. It would sort of be the analog equivalent of going viral. You
Oh,
know what I
wow.
mean?
Yeah.
Um, and and so one of the big backpack companies wanted to acquire us. And when we were like, nope, then they just went out and did it. And they knew we had the intellectual property because that was why they were buying our company. So to be clear, owning it isn't enough to protect you from quote unquote things happening. If for everything I've had that then turned out to be successful, bigger companies would come along and try to do something. But in the earlier phases of a startup and trying to raise money, you're going to be asked, for everyone that's watch Shark Tank, it's like, how is this unusual? Do you have it protected? Blah, blah, blah. You're going to be asked, and for that reason alone, you need to patent your intellectual property and protect and trademark stuff and make sure you understand what you need to do to have it copyright protected, blah, 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 blah. Because if you want to raise money, they're going to ask you about that. And most likely you'll lose investments if you haven't done it, or they'll force you to start doing it if you still have time. But and I'm not giving any legal advice, but you do only have a set amount of time to file for a patent. It's not like copyright where it just is. You have to file, and you have to file within a certain period of time of sort of talking about it publicly.
So fascinating. I know everyone's probably in the comments or just taking down notes and all the different things. This is so helpful. P.S. By the way, if you haven't noticed, Miss Tiffany Norwood actually has a QR code there, and I'm sure that if they scan that, what happens, Tiffany? Where are they going to go?
They're going to go to my links page, so they'll see my primary social media that I'm really active on is LinkedIn. You can also DM me there, and I tend to respond. And some background information on my story, all my startup journey, my inventors and innovators journey. So yeah, I hope there's a few links.
Yeah, go for
Because
it.
people always ask me, so I just years ago created the QR code.
How helpful is that? You're like, instead of me just saying it all the time, here's an easy way for me to do it and make it accessible. I love that. Here's another question for you. You know, with all of your experience, what's your advice to those facing systemic barriers on their patenting journey? We've talked a little bit about, going to your local library, talking to your librarian, being a part of like-minded communities, going back to university, because learning is always a journey. Is there anything else that you would add to that?
Yeah, so I would say, don't give up. Like everything that I've done that's been substantial, either for impact or for money or for, uh, my personal satisfaction around it, has taken time. There's no quick fix. There's no get rich quick scheme. None of that. No matter if someone is marketing that to you, be very, very suspicious. It's a long game and it's a long play. So that's the first thing to keep in mind, and not to be frustrated by it. It's normal. The second thing is during that process, right, you'll be getting feedback from the USPTO, from whoever is your examiner, right? So on the agency side, there'll be an examiner that's communicating with your lawyer, or if you try to do it directly yourself, which I do know people that do that now because of the resources on the USPTO website. Know that you're going to get, questions back or challenges. And that is just part of the process. I've seen people totally lose it when it came back and they didn't just first round get it issued. And instead there were challenges, and thinking, oh, it's not going to happen. I failed because it was the first time they did it. And they didn't realize, no, that pretty much happens all the time. And you have to, keep the faith, be determined, play the long game, keep your eye on the prize.
Is it uncommon to just get it approved the first time around? Like, should you be
Um,
suspicious and be like, wait a second?
I I don't know. I'm like, it's never happened to me, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. That's probably a better question for a patent attorney or a patent examiner because they're seeing so many each year
Yeah,
versus an individual inventor.
got it. And so what lessons have you learned from failure? Because I imagine, you put in your application, you wait for it. Sometimes you expect things to happen and might fall through. When it comes to failure, how have your views about failure changed over just the course of your career?
Yeah, so my views of failure are relatively the same from when I was young to now, which is that I don't really believe in it. So the fact that people put, and what I mean by that is the way most people define failure is like, oh my God, it's over, right? It's not a part of the journey, it's the end of the journey, right? Whereas for me, it's just a part of the journey. So I don't perceive it the same way as people. I don't take it on as part of my identity, just like I don't take on my successes as part of my identity. My identity, just my goal is to try to keep it, steady state, x axes, right? Sine, cosine, but I'm just right here. Um, and so, one, it's how you perceive it. Two, know that's normal. So, say I'll put my entrepreneur hat back on. And as I mentioned, I've done 9 startups. And in the first few years of a startup, before you go cash flow positive, you are in a state of failure, right? Because if you stopped, people would lose money, the company would implode on itself because it's not cash flow positive. So the revenues that you're making are not covering the expenses of your business, and a little bit or a lot left over, which is called profit, right? So in the first, it can take you 5, 7 years. Some people do it sooner, some people do it later than that even, to go cash flow positive. And in that state, you're in a state of failing the whole time. If you were caught up in focusing on, I'm failing, I'm failing, I'm failing because I'm not cash flow positive yet, then you'll never get there. If you make it such a big deal, you'll never get there. I'll sort of speak to the athletes that are watching this because more people have been athletes in school or university or whatever than they have been entrepreneurs or inventors, right? So I'll put my athlete hat on. When I did sports my whole school career, including at university. So I rode varsity crew at Cornell back in the 80s. What sort of athlete would you be? And that's a really intense sport. So we're always training. We were training practically, all year round. When we're a season, we're training twice a day, out on the water, in the gym, running, weights, but the hardest being the swimming in open water. So, needless to say, when I would get back home, my muscles would be sore, right? My body would be sore. Could you imagine if I was like, oh my God, I'm sore? That's just the nature of the beast. You deal with it and you try to, get the lactic acid down. You take your whey protein shots to start rebuilding the muscle immediately. You just have your various protocols that you do to be ready to walk the next day, as well as go to class and go to your other training sessions. You're not like, oh my God, I'm sore. That's a failure. So similarly with being an entrepreneur, innovator, or any person that wants to shoot big, it's going to be constantly falling down, getting back up, things not working out, being responsive in design and iteration. So things don't work out. You're like, oh, what can I change? What can I tweak? And then let's try it again. Tweak, let's try it again.
That's so helpful. I remember when I felt like there was a challenge that was happening. I was like, why do I keep getting challenged? And I remember one of my mentors had said to me, Stephanie, fail is just an acronym for first attempt in learning. I was like, that makes sense.
I never heard that before.
Yeah, first attempt in learning. And so to your point, it's like build it, iterate, get feedback, figure out what needs to happen, and just keep pushing forward. Just keep going after it because usually there is no failure, there's only feedback at this point. And the more feedback you
Yeah,
get, just keep going, and it'll make your product or your innovation, your imagination come to life. I love
yeah.
that. So
But then
helpful.
also keep in mind there's fail, sail, tail, fail, fail, sail. As in the first attempt is just the beginning of a long, journey of trying to figure it out.
Yeah. I feel like that could be a children's book right there. And an inventor's children's book, and it rhymes. And I absolutely love that idea. When we're talking about failure and everything else, you had mentioned the resources, and I just want to give the audience another time just to take a look at these resources because I found it to be very helpful. And if you're tuning in right now, I know that you can't click on the links within the Zoom webinar itself. So if you want to have an opportunity to just take a screenshot, Tiffany will, hey, here it is. Then that's going to be super helpful for you. And I think that's always going to be a ton of fun. Let me go ahead and take
Yeah,
a,
and then, especially that USPTO first time filer expedited examination pilot program. I wasn't aware of that. So that's really exciting to compress the time to market because, the clock is always ticking for us if you want to then, take that intellectual property and leverage it in the marketplace. You
mm,
have a set amount of time to do that.
that's so helpful. And Miss Tiffany, we actually have a question from Jasmine LaFleur. And her question is, how can we get in touch with Tiffany for a one-on-one? Is it the best place to go to your QR code, or what do you think?
Yes, all my contact information, the best way to contact me is through the QR code. And again, you can start with DMing me on LinkedIn if you like.
DM is the place, or LinkedIn is the place to be, I feel like. I feel like oftentimes when someone reaches out to me, at least I could see their profile, their experience, who they might also be connected to, kind of what we were talking about as far as resources and relationships. That's always helpful. Here's another question that we have for you, and it's from Ebony Celeste. And her question is, can taking the pro bono approach affect the quality of service the inventor receives?
Hmm. I would say not. I haven't used pro bono legal resources for filing my patents because they weren't available when I really needed them back then. And then now I wouldn't qualify for them. But I will say for all the various people that have helped me along the way with my startups and being an entrepreneur, that they have been awesome resources. I mean, because what you're getting are lawyers that are so passionate about people exploring their imagination and their genius and protecting it that they're volunteering some of their time to help out. So I would say definitely explore the pro bono program, especially through the USPTO, because they're going to be vetted.
Very helpful. And so, for those of you that are still in the audience, if you have any last minute questions, go ahead and type them in here because I find that this is like one of the best things is, we have these webinar series where we get to ask questions, present information, and this is really like your one-on-one time. You wouldn't find this anywhere else, which is why I love TIPA and the community that you're building together is that the door's open, ask your questions, get the feedback and the questions that you need. Because even just chatting with you, there are times where I'm like, oh, okay, portable whiteboard. I see like even in my little chat session, everyone's like, I need this portable whiteboard. They're like,
I'm
Post-its have
such a
nothing
geek.
on this.
It's like when you realize you're a geek, when no one's heard of a whiteboard, roll, tear off sheets of a whiteboard. Also, I'll share something on that front, which is something I think is really compelling and definitely will be used more and more in the future, and that people that are listening to this can get ahead of, which is a modeling language called SysML. Have you ever heard of it?
I have not. Tell me more.
SYSML. And a lot of people haven't, including leaders of very large tech organizations have not heard of it. So SysML is system modeling language, and it's a language to create a standard for smart diagrams. So say, as a systems engineer, our discipline of study came from the Apollo space program. So systems engineering is a study and a deployment of complexity. I like to call us the everything bagel of engineers because we do software, we do hardware, we do human psychology, we do operations and all of that stuff, right? And believe it or not, well, of course you would believe it, these really complex, and I've built and launched something into space, right? As a space entrepreneur in the mid 90s. And these complex things were handled basically using PowerPoints and Excel spreadsheets in the past, right? And still currently, I have a lot of fellow students that come off of they design jet engines or they're in the space program or whatever. And it's still widely used, like PowerPoint and Excel. And sometimes there'll be 500 pages, right, on a primary system, all these diagrams. SysML, and then the tools that are built off it. So the tool that we use in university is called Magic, System of Systems, but also IBM has Rhapsody, and I think there's a few others. And it creates these smart diagrams where you can link all the systems and subsystems and components together, where you can define constraints within the diagram, where you can embed parametric equations. So say if the orbit goes past this, et cetera, with this calculation, it would then immediately trigger alarms, et cetera, or feed into another subsystem. So with SysML, you can create these smart diagrams using a variety of tools built off of SysML, and it is the future because we are getting more complex with everything. And I would encourage people, their YouTube tutorials, etc., to start getting up to speed on systems modeling language for everything, for design thinking, for spacecraft, and everything in between.
I love that. That's so fascinating. Now I've written all these notes. I think I have look at the screen and write your notes at the same time and still make it legible. Tiffany, we have another question for you. This comes from Hugh Bailey. And Hugh Bailey asks, Tiffany, are you receptive to mentor a new aspiring inventor?
Hi, Hugh. And yes, I do mentor a lot of inventors and entrepreneurs. It's been hard for me to add on new people recently because I'm getting used to being a grad school student while having 3 companies, 4 board seats, and a personal life. But I'm sure we can figure out something to at least have a conversation.
That's always helpful. I feel like sometimes in life we have to shoot our shot, right?
Yeah, I always do. I ask for everything all the time.
Yeah. Asking you never know, right? Asking you shall
Yeah,
receive, as they say.
yeah, no puppies or babies are going to get killed. Maybe some cats, but I haven't studied the impact on cats yet. I can
I,
say for sure no puppies or babies are going to die from asking.
I love that. So, Miss Hermione, I know that we have something special that you are saving for us, Hermione Rising.
Yes,
May
yes,
I'll remove myself from the screen and just have you full screen if that's okay.
yes,
Does that work?
definitely.
Okay.
Yep. Uh, because I am so pro imagination and creativity and believe in the importance of it, I tend to, when I am sharing my story or mindset or skill sets, convert it into performance based content. And so, what I wanted to share with you all today was a poem that I wrote called Hermione Rising, because Stephanie asked me, "Oh, have a summary. We'd love for you to summarize your perspective." And I said, "Okay, well, can I do it as a poem?" And for those of you who love Harry Potter like I do, The poem, yes, is based off of Hermione Granger because I think she is our ultimate role model as innovators. Most of us are either called muggles or will feel like muggles, especially when we're starting out in the process. And then as we go down the line, putting in the time, lifelong learning, right? Suffering for whatever our invention is, and trying to look out for the greater good. We find out that, wait a second, we have so much magic inside of us. So that is what Hermione Rising is about as a poem. And I'm going to start, like with most things, by sharing with you my imagination. I imagine a better way, something disruptive and innovative, used and revered, demanded and paid for, something transformative. Imagination, why do we deny it or discount it? It's the source of all innovation. Einstein was theoretical, not applied. Da Vinci, an artist and a scientist. George Washington Carver, no vision, no hope. And Harriet, well, Harriet had to imagine freedom before she took the first step. I have a dream of traveling in space, of curing cancer, of running for office, of peace, unity, equality, and equity. I know you all get what I'm saying. It's not about the how, it's about the why, the sense of purpose. No need to teach imagination, just endorse it. And with grace, give space for it. It's not to be packed away. It should be on display in schools and offices and webinars, right? A priority among the others. Serious vote for tinkering and sketching and making and for play. Forcing memorization of someone else's prior imagination is not the way. The recipe gives space to extend and expand a concept through empathy and understanding, through diversity and collaboration, and embrace for imagination in the case of them all. The more minds that imagine together, the more innovation blossoms. The more diverse those minds, the taller it grows. And if it's fueled by love and understanding, it thrives and soars. We are 8 billion strong, brothers and sisters. We can do anything unless we fight each other. Go human or go home. My fellow inventors, you are our future game changers. Your place is at the top of the class. Take out your wand and cast the spell of I want that. It's okay if it's messy. Innovation will always be messy. Practice, rehearse, experiment, try, screw up, and then rise up. Wield the magic of hope and faith. And know that the world may attack your genius now, but love you for it later. Hermione is rising and her power is limitless. And like her, I pray you will use yours for the greater good. God believes in you. Please always believe in yourself and each other. Thank you.
That was amazing.
Oh, thank you. Why are you whispering?
It's just so impactful. I don't think I told you this either. My daughter's name is Emma. And she always asks me, Mommy, why did you name me Emma? And I was like, well, I named you after Emma Watson, who played one of the
So,
wisest wizards, Hermione Granger.
yes, I met her before, actually.
Did you really? How was that experience? Did you tell her about Hermione Rising?
I hadn't written it yet. It was when the second movie came out, I got a chance to go to the premiere in LA and hang out with them.
That's so amazing.
Yeah, it
That's
was really
steady.
amazing. But because it really played a role, say, in the 90s, I was part of the startup that did satellite radio. And I raised nearly $1 billion in my late 20s to build those 3 satellites and all the infrastructure and the team and the companies around it. We spun out our North American satellite and team as XM Radio.
Yeah.
And it really felt, as a space entrepreneur, especially a young entrepreneur. And back then, there wasn't even Google. Okay. So many Americans didn't even have cell phones, let alone a computer or be on the internet, because this was the mid 90s, going into the late 90s. And we launched our first satellite October of 1998. And, during that period of time, I'd spent a lot of time in London. So I was, back and forth to London when the first books had come out. So it just like I would read myself to sleep with them at night, and be reading about magic, and then get up, in the morning and be like maybe in Toulouse in a hangar speaking to Jean-Francois Gambert at Alcatel Spas, and looking at this satellite come to life, And
Wow.
so it's just been such a big part of my journey, that story, and I especially resonated with Hermione.
That's so amazing. I'm a I'm one of those people where when I'm inspired by art, uh, I want to print it out. Is there a way that can I find it? Can I print it out? Can I frame it? Can I put it in the house and just have this space? There was the one where it's like it shouldn't be packed away. It should be on display. And this is something that I feel like I want to have in my home. So whoever comes into my home or comes into my creator space, remember this. Is there any way to get your hands on that?
The only printed copy I have of it at the moment is it's a Easter egg, sort of a secret little embedded bit in the back of Vote Like a Boss, a book that I published back in 2020. That I'm actually going to do a second edition this year, and it's like because that was a pandemic project that people really loved because it had my story in it.
Yeah.
So it's the closest thing that I probably have to autobiography right now. And in the middle of that story, there was an essay called Vote Like a Boss, which talked about how I was the first of my family to be born with all of my civil rights, and how that mindset of my ideas, my opinions, my vote matters translates to being an entrepreneur and innovator. Because again, it's taking yourself, taking your imagination seriously, and then contemplated, well, what would have happened if I didn't have the right to vote? And if every 2 to 4 years, my country, my state, my city were like, Tiffany, shut, get out of here. Let the real people that matter decide what's going to happen for the next 2 to 4 years. That might have affected it would have affected my mindset. And it was hard enough as is. So would I have like spoken up more? Because it's a lot of startups and innovations about quote unquote speaking up or writing up, like filing it or whatever. Like you have to really be ready to stick up for yourself. So Vote Like a Boss is more case for the growth mindset of voting. It doesn't have anything to do with the political party or a politician. And in building up to that, my story at the beginning, middle, and end of my story, that's embedded in it. And then Hermione Rising is included as like an Easter egg in the back because no one would be expecting it to be there. Otherwise, I don't have it printed anywhere else yet. I am planning to like release some artwork around it, like a poster, maybe a separate book that's just it without anything else, and like the visuals that would go with it, as well as maybe a video and or a song that there is a producer that's like, let's go into the studio with that.
Yes. That would be exciting. I already got like all these goosebumps.
Oh, and I'll add that I have a show right now that I've been showcasing for the past 2 years, that I will be performing for the first time in DC on April 11th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. At the Kennedy Center. It's called Sexy Black Genius. And at the end of that show, I perform Hermione Rising with AI.
Wow. Okay. So let's say that date one more time.
It's April 11th at 7 p.m. at the Kennedy Center. And the tickets, I think, go on sale March 27th. It's in the experimental theater part of the Kennedy Center.
That's exciting. So everyone mark
And
your
so I'm
calendars.
excited about it because
Yeah.
it's also the first like live show that Tribetan Studios has produced, one of
Hmm.
my companies. Yeah, because we performed it before, but people would buy the performance from me, and then it would be embedded into whatever they're doing. But being the entrepreneur that I am, I'm like, I want to have my own production company. So it's also the first show that Tribetan is producing.
Oh, that's so exciting. Well, obviously, we're
Yeah.
all going to be thinking of you because we're just so inspired by you, your journey, and everything that you've had to share with us today. If you were to give all of our attendees one last piece of advice, what would it be? What would they walk away with today?
I would say regret is more painful than failure. That, life is not the time to wait. You can do all the waiting you want when you're dead. Just go for it. I would say that success is the amount of success you will have in life is directly proportionate to the amount of suffering you're willing to bear. And so to get comfortable with suffering, and in whatever way that means for me, it's being, physically active. I've gravitated now from varsity crew to for the past 22 years I've been doing Bikram yoga. So that helps me deal with the suffering. Praying and meditation helps me deal with the suffering, spending time with my friends and family. But one way or the other, get comfortable with suffering, have your ways of handling it, because if you want to be successful in life, you also have to take its companion, which is suffering, with you.
Such wise wisdom. Thank you so much, Tiffany. This has been an absolute amazing just moment, time to be with you. And I want to also thank you, everyone else who attended today. If you haven't done so already, make sure you scan that QR code, because if you're like, oh, I'll do that later, now is the time. The other thing that I will share with you is that we will share a link to today's webinar in the next few days. And we hope that you'll join us for our next webinar. That date is still to be determined, but just know that if you loved today, we'll have something amazing planned for you as well. And one more time, Miss Tiffany Norwood, the best place to find you for your next performance in April, the date and the time.
April 11th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. Tickets go on sale, I want to say March 27th, March 28th. I don't have control over the box office date. But yeah, I hope to see people there. And I'll add, sort of closing out this experience, that I spent some time, hours and hours and hours, letting Tipa capture my story, all the details of my story. We filmed it at Howard University in DC. I really wanted it to be filmed there. And they've been releasing bite-sized nuggets of information and tips and tools and perspectives on their YouTube channel of that interview that I did, I want to say back in 2022 or 2023.
And it's amazing because I even watched a couple of like, oh, that's so good. Such a great
Yeah.
production. And with that said, we'll close out for now. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Tiffany, for your time. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you too.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.